What I present to you today is a highly personal accounting of my life in as far as my educational career as a summary to my college career, I'd say. My college experiences, and this is really, I'm making this for a couple reasons. I would like to have this out there. This is my own personal sort of narrative on my life at this point, and it's taken me a while to develop this, and it's good for me to have this be put into words. For anyone who's watching this and wants to know about me more, this is what I'm doing this for. It's good for a parasocial relationship, for you to feel somewhat invested. And I know that from previous videos I've done on my educational career and my time at like Arizona State or what have you, people have responded positively and have talked to me about their experiences, and I really enjoy that my candidness had brought that out in people I had even known from Arizona State, and I'm appreciative of that, and I'd like to come out more and talk about my experiences more and where I'm at, what I've done, what my path has been. So it's a kind of long story, and I hope that I'm not gonna take up too much time, but I'll try and shorten this the best I can, at least be accurate and summaritous enough, if that's a word. Going back to the very first note, like where to start the story, right? In high school, our school started a STEM program when I was in the 10th grade with a professor or with a teacher who I really appreciated. I'll use his real name, Mr. Russo, and we started off by having it be like a computer class, but eventually it turned into like a full-fledged engineering STEAM class, complete with a routing machine, CAD on all the computers. We did eventually get a 3D printer, but it was shitty back then because this was like 2013, 2014. And the class would basically just build projects, and it was some of the best building experiences of my life. It was we worked with a robotic arm. That's the first thing I went to. That's the first thing I learned. I went and got the robotic arm. It's just remembering it now I remember it as such a beautiful and insightful time for myself. I don't know. I didn't really think about how impactful it was, but it was really a great time for me. Going all the way back even further, just a little bit, I had previously sort of dedicated a lot of time to the Academic Decathlon, which was like a study homework club where you just had to learn shit to then prove your intellectual superiority over your classmates. And that wasn't really my environment. I was not as quick as all the other students were, and I wasn't as dedicated to studying, and I really found my place in the engineering club. I was able to isolate myself a lot of the times and teach myself these skills that it was so valuable to me. My high school experience was defined by this class and by this, the people there. They were good. They were good people. I was able to relate to people through my work there and through my dedication to that class and my passion for that class, even if everyone there wasn't my social ability is something I never have put a lot of thought or sort of consideration into. And so it just really allowed me to be myself without having to worry so much about what other people were considering of me. It really was my sport for my high school experience, and we built a lot of stuff there that I really appreciated. We built a can crushing machine. We built a hovercraft, which was just like a leaf blower or something on a piece of wood with a trash bag. I think we built an automated catapult, and that was really neat because that required me to use the CNC machine a lot, which taught me a lot about G-code, which is something I use now. And electrical engineering, all the above. It was so cool. And then I eventually had to do the computer class. That was my best, hands down, educational engineering teaching experience in my entire educational career, period. That class was the best class. There was handbooks for everything. It was so in-depth. It let you just do everything hands-on. I can't believe, thinking back on it now, the quality and level of experience I got through that class is second to none. I can say. And it was really, the class was very much forming at the time. I eventually also did a robotics class, we made a robotics class. I don't know how it's going now at my high school. But it was, I helped found it. I was one of the first members of it. I think my robot, or like my team's robot, me and one of my classmates, we had like out of all the placing of the other robots, our robot was the best in the class. There was only two others, but then our robot was also like got eighth for our first time, and I thought that was really special and interesting. And I mean, like, it was just so on brand for what I wanted to do with my time, with my life. It was it was the best time for me, I'd say, with building things, with feeling like I was on track towards something, towards being involved in my educational career and really believing in the system and thinking I was going in the right direction. And this entire time I was, being motivated to go to college by my family, and they were telling me, like, I had to go do this. And we picked out Arizona State as the college of choice because they had a very much like involved engineering program, and especially for the price range and what my family was able to pay for, and what I was even able to get into. I was never the best student. I've really not done well with the educational system in as far as how it is assessing you and grading you. I've always really struggled with doing homework and being on track and getting the marks because it just doesn't work with me very well. I'm very good at self-teaching. I'm not good at meeting teacher expectations, and that's a theme throughout my educational career. I've always sucked at meeting the expectations of educators because it's like they expect me to hit like preordained goals, and I am way more interested in teaching myself the principles and understanding the thing in its actuality. I'm less interested in completing the work, and I really want to just have an in-depth knowledge of these things. So that doesn't work well, though. I mean, you're incentivized to work very much like on the track of just work completion, and that's how all the other students got better grades than me, and how they got into better schools than I did, and eventually why I dropped out of Arizona State, because I was very much like I was so in over my head with meeting these new, just sort of like stringent requirements by the teachers without really a lot of aid is the right word, without a lot of sympathy. In high school, teachers saw I was smart, and they gave me a lot of sympathy because they saw I was engaging with the material, but I wasn't meeting the actual like textbook requirements, and that's something that went away in college. Anyway, I was emotionally kind of stunted and reclusive, and I still am, but I feel I'm way more emotionally mature now in high school, and people knew me, but not very well, and I interacted with people in a very surface level way. So I ended up still having like people know me, and I talked in class. I was very much like how I am now, where I'm talking to myself in an empty room. I'm good at expressing myself in this venue. It was harder for me to express myself and be a socialite, let's say, but I talked in all my classes, and people knew me like that. And so I ended up actually gaining some kind of popularity in high school due to people knowing me. I was a prom king, but I was just due to a sort of branded conception of me that was independent from who I am as a person and how I am in life. And that's okay. I mean, it was an interesting... It's good to know that's a way I can exist, that I can kind of put out this veneer and have people respond to that without really having this talk with me. Because if you were to talk with me, you realize I'm very self-involved. I very much think about myself constantly, and I'm very much like in my own head about all my things. And I have issues, not totally, but to some degree with like relating to other people or putting myself outside of myself with certain kinds of people. Everything is very much from my own perspective, and that's okay. And I monologue. Like, again, this is why YouTube's so great for me. I monologue normally when I talk to normal people on just a constant stream of like thought. So I'm built for more of like an internet venue, honestly, than like real life. But that doesn't mean I I'm off the hook when it comes to real life situations. That's a different issue. Moving on. Summer after high school. It was a low time for me. I mean, it was in transition. Lots of things were changing in my life that were very personal, and I was understanding myself better, and finally there was parts of me that were being recognized, like after my prom king winning, and people knew me a little bit more, and not to get too personal with it, but I had some like summer flirtatious interests that I really was not emotionally mature enough to deal with in any way, and I really like embarrassed myself and was very immature in that period of time, because again, no one really knew me or talked with me, and they were very much like I was someone so socially isolated and without really having this emotional background of dealing with people in like a interpersonal way versus like a surface level like guy at the office way. I had no idea how to respond to people wanting me like romantically or sexually, and I really like ruined my summer by just being so torn up about like interpersonal stuff and being a social odd failure weirdo basically. And then college hit, and I moved away, and that was a huge thing for me. I've never living away from home, and like I've been very used to a structured life, and this is due to like a latent like autisticness to me. And I'm not calling myself I don't have diagnosed autism. I'm just saying like this is a thing that is like a consistent sort of pattern in me, that I have like these tendencies. And yeah, like moving out and having an unstructured life really like threw me, because it's like things were unfamiliar. I didn't know, I didn't have like lots of grounding, and I didn't really know where to put myself, and I didn't know how to emotionally like rely on myself, or emotionally not just rely on other people for like support. And everyone was like that. And I was, again, basically a freshman is still a high schooler. They're just like a freed high schooler. So it's not like you don't immediately like grow up in that summer after high school. You're still like a dumbass. You're still not very like in it or like put together yet. And I mean, it takes a while. Some people never do it. So like, and my biggest interest at that point really was like, I don't know. It was weird because I really was enjoying my time being away from my family. My family had been both, again, like I had asked to be more restricted, and I also kind of didn't have a choice because my family was very much like, I would have had to actively have fought my family to be more outgoing, because they had a certain thought of how I was and the expectations on me. And suddenly I had all this freedom, and so I kind of had like, it wasn't like Girls Gone Wild, but it was sort of like I very much was more socially out there, and being more interested in socializing and having friends or knowing people versus my studies. And that was why I basically had a major problem, or flunked, or was not school focused at that time. So as I went on, my first semester was awesome at Arizona State. I did a great job. Like, I got a B plus, I think, average, and I had like 6 classes too. There were like 2 fake classes that was like you just have to show up and you got good grades, but still, I mean, like, it was still a lot for me to handle in one sitting, and and so that's how that went. I would like to talk about, considering that this is kind of about me, kind of about engineering and STEM and my experience in school in general, right? With that focus in mind, how was the engineering my first semester? It was pretty good. I mean, like, I did a program at Arizona State called EPICS, which was like philanthropy, or how do I call it? Not charity. What's the phrase? Well, it was kind of like community helping through engineering students coming up with solutions to community problems. I think we helped design like some irrigation system. I don't think it was implemented. I just think it was like a cool training exercise for practical engineering. Someone was like, we need to design something for a community garden, and it was like a watering system. that was cool. Epics was cool. I loved Epics. It was a good class. I wish we had something like that around here. Just in general, I mean, like, it's a cool idea. There is lots of situations where it's like that. We could just, if we just had like a think tank, people could solve this. But everything's really bureaucratic here in California anyway. The other class was like a straight up engineering class, and there was a lot of good information in that class about how to work as a team, about ideation, or about teamwork. And there's this great. I wish I could have talked more about my engineering time at. I'll tell that story another time at high school, because there was something described in the engineering class where basically there's steps between you meeting a new group of people and then suddenly all being able to mind meld and teamwork together as a group of people. In a small amount of time. Like, there's a whole process to it, and I've experienced that in an engineering context before. It was really cool at high school though. But I had a team of people that we built like a windmill, and I learned how to make batteries in that engineering class. I loved that. That was a great class. The rest of my studies were okay, and then second semester hit. And this is where everything falls apart. I had made certain relationships with certain people that fell apart, and that really threw me emotionally, and I wasn't prepared for that kind of breakup with a person, with a significant other. And it threw me really, really hard. And not only that did I have that, it was also the people who I consider my friends had also like sided against me in the breakup. And like, that's all drama, and like, I remember everything, and it's hard to be like, well, it's petty that I still have feelings about these things, but it's fine. These people don't like me anyway, so it's like, they're not gonna like look for me or search for me ever again, so I don't care. I'm just saying, like, I acted poorly, and so did they, and it's like all water underneath the fucking bridge, because it's like everyone was dumb. Like, everyone was emotionally and socially immature. Like, I was not ready for these situations, and they were still trying to figure themselves out. Have they figured themselves out yet? The world I will never know. I hope I have figured myself out at this point, and I'm mature enough to handle more emotionally complex situations, and I think I am, but that's beside the point. That threw me through a loop. That caused my studies to crash, on top of the fact that my family was having issues paying for me being out of state. There was lots of issues with the financial aspect, and for some reason I was just overwhelmed by everything at one point in time. And I had this weird sickness too that I was going through, where I would be so tired and lethargic, and it's like I couldn't gain energy. I was also trying out vegetarianism at the time. That was a terrible idea. It made me weak. It made me soft. It was not good. Don't do that. Don't change your diet before you go into college. Just stick with your diet. Stick with the way you eat things. You are already putting yourself in such a new situation. Do not change any more factors than you have to if you're moving out for the first time. Like, it's a whole fucking thing. Some people deal with it very well. I mean, there's people who, they move to college and they immediately change who they are, and they change all this stuff about their lifestyle, and it just clicks for them, and, like, that's not me. And, I mean, most people are not so, some people are waiting for that moment, and other times people aren't really built for that moment, if that makes sense. And I ended up basically failing all my classes. The coding class was really hard. And it was so big, and there was not like a layer of care about how you do it or how you can be helped doing it. And I don't know. Again, I was not great at expressing help or need or that kind of thing. Again, I'm a self-teacher, and I wasn't very motivated to self-teach at this time. And I ended up withdrawing from everything and moving home. And that was really hard, because Arizona State was one of the best college experiences. It was the best college experience. If I am to think of my college experience, it was my time at Arizona State. The people there, and another thing I want to note when I was talking about the people I met or people I befriended, it's a specific group of people. All the people I met through my engineering program were fantastic people who are also just trying to figure themselves out. And I honestly think that you were more genuine friends to me than the people who I'd end up spending most of my time with. And so this is to throw out there that if anyone's listening to this, because I had a person I knew from Arizona State that he messaged me afterward and he was like, sorry you had such a terrible time at Arizona State. I didn't have a terrible time. It was just a lot for me. And I just want to throw out that like people like you were the genuine people who I really appreciate from that experience. Not the people I was thrown through a loop by and, made my life, thrown out of whack, and I really threw me. So continuing on, I'm back home now. I am living with my family again. I'm specifically, I'm living with my mom, and I get a job for the first time, and I start going to school at Crafton, which is a school in my area, and it was hard because there was clearly a difference in the intention of this school than Arizona State. I think Arizona State was overwhelming, and it was. It's not conducive, really, or at least it's like a summer camp with studying. Like, it was not conducive to people actually trying to get through it and be. You can't join 20 clubs and finish your schoolwork. Like, that's not physically possible for like most of the student group. Like, it's just not. So this school was way more toned down, way less stuff being thrown at you, but it was also less exciting, and that was disappointing because it's like, yeah, I would really like to have gone back to summer camp with all the, all my peers, and this was less of that, and there was adults trying to get their way through school and just get their prereqs out of the way, and it's like a lot more grounded, and I applaud the groundedness of Crafton, and I think the groundedness of that school was more real. It was more actual. The more conducive to actually me finishing the fucking process of going through college. If that is something I was going to do, if I was not going to drop out, Crafton is what I needed. And I went through, and I was still trying to go through an engineering program. The problem is, engineering schools in California are so impacted. Not only that, there isn't like a great pipeline for community college to STEM programs, and I was led astray by the academic advisors at Crafton. And I did my calculus, I did my sciences. I just didn't do physics, college physics, which I could have done, by the way. This is not me. I am just saying this because I am wanting to throw out there that I did not quit because I was not good enough. I was very much capable of going through a college engineering program. I quit because college has been a tentative endeavor ever since Arizona State, where I'm like, I'm doing this because I don't know what else to do, and I'm being told to do this by my family. It's like this is a requirement for me to get through this. And even if this is not actually conducive to getting me what I want, or even putting me in a situation that's going to help me get a job or move forward or be like grounding for me moving forward, you're going to finish this. And that is what I attempted to do. So what happened was I had to go to a different college, San Bernardino Valley College, to finish my program. And I had been told that in my 4 semesters, 2 years at Crafton, I was going to graduate on time. And what ended up happening was the academic advisors were wrong, and I actually needed to do 3 years because the physics program class, I'll say, at San Bernardino Valley College was 3 semesters when they told me it was only going to be 2, which meant I was going to take an extra semester and then have to apply for schools and stuff in like the fall or whatever, like of the next year. And I knew if I had that gap, I would quit. I'd quit college because college has been, it's like, since I got to to Crafton Hills, it's not been bad, but it's been like so disappointing by comparison. My entire life has been like, at this point for me, like disappointing by comparison to what I thought was going to be post high school. I don't know, like there was expectations and they were not met, and that kind of change in life plan threw me again. These things do not work well with me. So I was thrown from this whole massive change in where I even was going with my life, and it's like very much like nihilistic thoughts. So at the last moment, like a year out from graduating, I'm like, I'm not taking that extra semester. I'm going to change my major. I'm going to go and do something that, and my family wanted me to, they always talked about, you're good at you would be a good teacher. You'd be, and I was like, yeah, if it gets me out, I'm going to do that. And I switched. I switched from being a science general major, because I did not have any sort of STEM major at Crafton. It was like a science BA, whatever, I don't know what they called it, to a psych major. And I ended up committing to that, and this wasn't like the worst thing ever. This is just like my path. Because this ended up putting me in contact with the psych club at Crafton Hills, which I really consider my like college group, or like people the people I've appreciated the most knowing in my college career. They were very much like that, like grounded people who were attempting to achieve, their educational career or intentions. And I met a lot of people through that who were very genuine people, who were not crazy and not duplicitous, and I feel like I found a home in that group, and it was like very good. It was a very positive moment. I had gone to the WPA with them, and that was, I had aspirations to submit research and that kind of thing for psych. I mean, this is I didn't switch psych and be like, well, I'm just doing this because my family wants me to. I had a genuine interest in psych, and this is a general problem for me too. I have a lot of interests in my life, and I could do a lot of things with my time. I could make educational or lecture videos for sure on YouTube or something to that effect. I am physically capable. Like, it's another one of my skills. So I was sort of turning into that avenue of my abilities, and sort of ignoring my more physical desires of like some kind of engineering, right? Creative desires, let's say, of some kind of engineering. And I watched, like, it was very much like a positive college experience for me to go to that, because it was like a field trip with like adults, and I was able to bond with people there, and it was just really neat, and I'm really happy for that experience, and I'm very happy for the people at the psych club and to have met them. Like, it was very positive, and I'd support the psych club going forward, even if it's not my chosen path anymore. And eventually, my time at Crafton was over, and I graduated from there, and I moved on to Cal State San Bernardino, which had a psych program. And moving from there to there, I was very much motivated to go and get a master's of some kind and doing maybe some kind of research there, because it was a research school. So if I'm going to turn into the skid of my interests, I need to fully apply myself, was my logic. And I mean, that's a correct logic if I still understood what I was doing there. And so I went there, and I tried to get into the programs, and only thing is that it was incredibly difficult, and I've never, again, going back to what I was talking about before, it's very difficult for me to like fully apply myself and engage in the rat race, or engage in like the institutional competition that is school programs. That is sort of like, you need to prove yourself better than these other students. I'm like, I'm not great conceptually with that, and it was very competitive to do biopsych or research of any kind there. And I mean, I appreciated the people I talked to, who I tried to get into their programs, and I tried to learn more, and I tried to learn how to do research, and I did. I mean, I took classes on how to do research, and it was definitely a confusing time for me. I definitely wanted to do my research on drugs and like behavior, essentially, because that's still an area of interest. It's kind of like different mechanisms, but a biological mechanism versus like mechanical engineering mechanisms. And it's also relates to my inability to focus and pay attention to things, because one of the biggest breakthroughs for me in my educational career was learning to take some kind of medication for my like ADHD. And so then that got me on the path of wanting to learn more about the brain and inspiring your brain to work correctly and and that kind of thing. That was the whole inspiration to that path. Problem was, again, it was super competitive and required me to be like very much dedicated to that path. And at the same time, I was having a lot of emotional issues with my medication. It was making me have mood swings. It was, isolating. This whole path I was taking was like, I still didn't know how to do the homework properly. And I was having issues with family at home where they had lots of expectations of me still, even though I was still in college and I was trying to do my own thing and trying to have some kind of independence and that kind of thing. And what I ended up having to do was I had to end up moving from my mom's house to my dad's house. And that happened around last year, like January of 2020. And that was a big shift in my whole life, because it let me actually like have more independence and listen to myself more and let myself be using my time how I want to use my time. Like I had lots of constraints on my time, and that was primarily motivated by expectations by my family. So I moved in with my dad, and I acclimated to basically wanting to be at school more, or trying to be more in it at like education, at like the school programs. That was like where I was shooting for, and I was going to take that on the next quarter. But then coronavirus happened. And when coronavirus happened, it just threw everything through a fucking loop. And that was not the worst thing for me. It was actually kind of good, because I was motivated to do this out of a fear of not being not listening. Not being the person I was expected to be. I was partially doing this whole psych thing for not me. I just wanted something to get through college with, and I just didn't want. It's like if I had to get through this stuff, I was going to do something that was a little bit easier than engineering. And trying to get into some kind of research program in years that are critical to you doing this path, right? That time when coronavirus hit, that would have been the time in which I was getting into research and knowing professors so that they would have let me into their programs. And I was not pursuing that with like an extraordinary amount of like vigor, or like I was attempting to, but then coronavirus hit, so then I was not really able to like get in with teachers, and no one would know me. They just know me over email, and that's not good enough. That's not good enough in school. And I, on my 22nd birthday, printed a knife for my friend on a 3D printer. And when I did that, I realized how cool it was. And it made me remember everything I just talked about. The engineering, like basically I had forgotten all of the like emotional satisfaction of building things and making things in a lab or with my hands, or seeing like technology work after working on it for hours and days, and it just never worked out, but all of a sudden it does, and it's just like a thing now. From high school, like the beauty of that was lost to me going into college. It was taken from me because they just didn't have a pragmatism. College was so anti-pragmatic, and the classes I've taken since then, while doing online classes at my college, has made me I just fucking hate Cal State San Bernardino at this point. There's so much politics involved with their bullshit, and I know I've been involved with my politics over the past year, but it's like it's in the curriculum. It's part of the teaching. It's not. It's you can't have like biology or anthropology in a vacuum. It has to have some sort of like socialist, communist critique of biology and human, like it's just so, it's so fucking insulting. Honestly, it's so insulting. It's like, I don't want to work in a place like this. I'd never want to work at a college. These people are, not everyone. I've had good professors. There's professors at Cal State San Bernardino who just wanted to do research on drugs and rats and pharmaceuticals. That is noble. I like that. That is sterile. I mean, like, it's genuine in its desire. And this bullshit with critical race theory, with basically teaching the like some sort of latent like communistic theory within other fields, is insulting and aggravating, especially considering I understand this shit like better than most people. Like, I have been inoculated against these stupid, terrible ideas through my time of educating myself on politics. So I am in my final semester at Cal State San Bernardino, and I am not going to go to graduation at that school. It has been it's not the school I consider to be my alma mater. Crafton Hills is my alma mater. That's where I really had my college experience, air quotes. Like, as far as where I really spent the most time and had the most, like, genuine experiences. That and Arizona State. But, like, more Crafton because I only spent, like, 6 months at Arizona State. This is a story for people who are interested in knowing where I'm at, why I'm at where I'm at, the decisions I've made. If you want to know more about me, it's also a story for people who are going into college or justifying college to themselves. It has been a learning experience, but the learning has been, this has all been like a lot of shit. Like, it's been a lot of garbage that has been confusing and difficult to understand and emotionally taxing, and it's put a lot of, like, basically limitations on my life. I had to do this because I would have blamed not going to college on my lack of success or lack of motivation, or I would have held on to never going to college as a point of blame for myself into the future. So it's something I had to do. But going forward, the educational system is broken and does not teach you what you need to learn. It at its best, it was overwhelming. At its worst, it was uninspiring and inept and, like, indoctrinating. So I'm now doing my own thing. I am now teaching myself electronics and code and all different things myself, and I'm going about this as a, like, independent outsider. It's a lot of work, and it's also kind of scary because I feel like I'm out of my depth, and I feel like this is not something that I am necessarily the smartest person to do. But this is my path, and this is where I'm going now, and this is what I'm dedicating the channel to going forward. I hope everyone, like, watches and sort of considers this story as, like, I don't know, the prelogue, the prologue to what I end up doing with this channel and with my time, because I've always wanted to build things and, like, do robotics and stuff, and I think I can do a lot, especially with, like, I say I'm out of my depth, but I think I'm just barely smart enough to do this on my own.